Welcome everyone to Bedtime Mysteries with Andreajohnsonbooks. I am Andrea Johnson, your host for this evening, and the purpose of this nightly interlude is to help my audience go to bed with a simple thought. Who is it? My short bedtime mysteries will leave you with many questions. You will always end the evening with something to ponder or decipher. Tonight, our story is called Parallel Reflections. A family man living an everyday normal life wakes up into something that cannot be explained. What has always been the same is now in question, as this very man finds himself the primary suspect of a multiple homicide investigation. Our story now takes us to the home of a very troubled man, a man that is about to wake up into a nightmare unlike any that's ever been conceived.
Brad Foster opened his eyes and stared at the ceiling. The sunrise was seeping into his bedroom as awareness began to revive him. He sat up in his bed, slightly disoriented for a moment. He looked over at his sleeping wife. The sheet covered her, and she remained in slumber. Getting up from the bed, he started to make his way to the bathroom so he could begin his mundane routine, going to work for a company that everyone hated. But something suddenly caught his eye, an oddity, insignificant but still specific enough to draw his interest. Brad frowned as he turned, staring at his bedroom window. It was slightly open, a mere crack, but still wide enough to blow a gentle breeze within the curtains. Brad's eyes narrowed in confusion. To anyone else, this would have appeared as no major concern. Certainly nothing to be puzzled about. However, there was one rule in the Foster home that was always obeyed, without question. His two children, his wife, all knew without a shadow of a doubt that all windows were to be closed at night. Never in their entire marriage of 20 years had his wife ever went against him on that, and his children would never dare. So how was it that the window was open? Brad felt his heartbeat begin to pound. Something was not right. Feeling a chill trickle down his spine, he walked over to his wife's sleeping form and touched her arm to awaken her. The sheets fell off her still body as her eyes stared up at him vacantly. A perfect slit across her neck was outlined against her pale skin. The blood was still flowing from the open gash, a slow-moving river that covered her nightgown and body. Brad began to back away, stumbling into the dresser and chest. His mind was in shock. The rushing wind now a loud siren in his head. Unable to catch his breath as he began to wheeze uncontrollably, the only thing he could think of was his children. He had to get to his kids. Panting, his vision going hazy, Brad made his way to his 12-year-old son's room and busted in. His son was on the bed, but the sheets were not covering him. His body lay still as the wound from his chest continued to bleed out. No, not my son. Brad backed out of the room and stared at his daughter's door, afraid of what he would see inside. But he needed to know. His baby girl. He had to see. With violently shaking hands, Brad opened his daughter's door and looked inside. His 10-year-old daughter was not on the bed like his wife and son. She was on the floor, the blood seeping from the gash in her head. Brad let out a terrible cry as he collapsed to his knees in his hallway. But his body had barely touched the floor before his front door burst open. Police officers and 2 detectives flooded his home, shouting at him to put his hands up and aiming their weapons at him. The tears streaking his face, Brad looked up dazedly as a detective read him his rights and handcuffed him. They pulled him to his feet, and Brad could only utter the first thing that came to his befuddled mind. I didn't do this. I didn't hurt my family. The detective sneered at him, jerking him roughly towards the door. That's going to be really hard to prove, you bastard, seeing that we've got video footage, fingerprints, and motive all pointing at you. Get him out of here. Brad barely registered the detective's words as they dragged him out of his home. He looked back at his open bedroom and shuddered, seeing the curtains blow in the breeze. No, you don't understand. I didn't do this. Check the window. Somebody please, check the open window.
I hope you enjoyed tonight's segment of Bedtime Mysteries with Andreajohnsonbooks, and I hope it left you with a question. What happened to Brad Foster that he seems to have no memory or recognition of what happened to his family? And why does he seem so interested in the open window? Have you figured it out? Tune in next week for the continuation. Bedtime Mysteries can be seen Monday nights at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. Please like my page on Facebook at Andreajohnsonbooks. You can also follow me on Twitter at AuthorJohnson78 or on Instagram at Andreathecreativeauthor. You can also visit my site at Andreajohnsonbooks.com. I wish you a good night, sleep tight, and don't leave your windows open tonight.